What exclusive benefits can the Equinox community expect as Echocore NFT owners?
One of the amazing things about the Echocore Genesis NFT and what we're planning for Equinox is that the first buyers, the first exclusive buyers through Equinox, will have access to two things. They'll have access to the artist room, where they'll actually get to interact with the designers who are in the process of creating the first characters. So imagine, take any of the NFT projects that you love, and imagine being able to see those characters before anybody else in the world. I think that's like amazing, and to be part of that process and in the room where you see how are these concepts put together, you know, peek behind the curtain a little bit with the artists.
How important is community in shaping the Echocore experience?
One of the things I think that's really exciting about Web3 is that nobody has all of the answers. And we need to all work together. We need to work as a community, not just across projects, but also within our project. This week, we had ideas in our community, for example, about attaching music to the characters. Somebody came up with this really cool idea that there could be like a little music that you need to play in order to synchronize your Echocore device. So they came up with this little bit of narrative themselves. So it's not just the story, but it's also about figuring out some of these larger mechanics. Like, what will Hollywood look like in 10 years? I can't tell you, but I think we're headed in the right direction. And I think by collaborating with our community, working in public, being as transparent as we can, bringing in really smart, interesting people that we can all be interacting with, that's the value that we want to live by. We want to live this project in the open. We want our community's involvement, and we invite you, we invite Equinox, we invite the people who are in our Discord to buy, obviously, an Echocore NFT and participate in that process of inventing the future together.
How are Web3 and NFTs changing the future of entertainment?
One of the constraints on the Metaverse until Web3, until blockchain, NFTs, DAOs, all of these new tools, has been that there has been a constraint because there's the big silos, the big companies have wanted to keep their users within closed systems. One of the things that I think is really exciting and what we're trying to explore with Echocore is the idea that NFTs can be little elements of storytelling. Your avatar is a character. Like when you play a game now on PlayStation, you're playing a character. That character can later appear in a movie. Think of Witcher, like what a great game, and then it became a great Netflix series. But why do I, as a player, I don't participate in that Netflix series, and yet my character could appear in that series? Web3 opens up this possibility that value can move in a virtuous circle between the metaverse, the kind of gameplay environment, and entertainment. That could be a Twitch stream, that could be a television show, that could be a YouTube video. So I think one of the exciting things that helps to do is to remove this constraint that as value moves across different media platforms, it means that it puts pressure on the big silos, on the big companies, to open up their doors a little bit so that story, people, value can move around more freely.
How does Echocore value land in the Metaverse?
Echocore is an NFT-based metaverse. Our vision is that everything in that metaverse can be owned. That's everything from the characters to their clothing to the locations that are in that world. The Storyverse component allows you to take those locations and characters and create media products from them. But let's think about what happens currently with a game. So a game maker releases a game, people pay money for that game. They don't own the locations, they don't own the character, they don't own their inventory. So a Twitch streamer can then Twitch stream about that game, which sends in more users who are paying more money. But why shouldn't I, as the person who owns that location in the game, receive a benefit because somebody on Twitch is sending users to that location? That's a really profound concept because it creates a circle of value that returns to the NFT holders. This point about locations, I think, is really important. We hear a lot of talk in the metaverse about owning land. And land, in some ways, is an artificial scarcity, because land just represents a little piece of code on a server, and I could just as easily put up a second server and have more land. Locations, though, are iconic. Locations have emotional value, and they can be part of a story world. So you think of the Batcave, or you think of Superman's Fortress of Solitude, or you think of the Avengers headquarters. Those locations have meaning because they're part of this bigger story. So wouldn't it be amazing to own the NFT of the Batcave? And that's what we're setting out to do as well with Echocore.
How does the Echocore Storyverse generate value for NFT holders and connect it to entertainment?
One of the things that the Metaverse does that I think is really profound is that it provides a new platform of value that can work really well with traditional media. So what happens right now is that you have a closed-off game system like Call of Duty, and then you have a Twitch streamer who's live streaming playing Call of Duty. The only thing that does for the game is it drives more traffic, hopefully, to the game, more players, and it makes a little bit of money for the Twitch streamer, depending how big they are, right? And in fact, one of our advisors works with some of the top Twitch streamers in the world. And I think it's important to recognize Tatiana's role in helping us reach out to that community. So one of the things about that siloed approach, that these games are here and Twitch streaming is here, is that the players benefit because it's entertaining, but it's really them who's paying the cost. They're paying the cost for tipping the Twitch streamer, they're paying the cost for buying the game. In the Echocore system, if I own NFTs in the game world and the Twitch streamer creates traffic into that game world, we're actually creating value for those NFTs. Those NFTs actually have the rights, because of the licensing structure that we're building in, to earn a return from the traffic that's generated from media. And that's a really profound idea, because it means that story can be grounded in the metaverse where value is created, which means that you can connect that value now to entertainment. And it's a big thought, it's a really big picture. In the short term, the key to think about is that you're going to own a really cool character in a really cool game, and that character is going to gain in value over time as this franchise grows. You know, we think of the Avengers now, we think of the Marvel universe as this massive behemoth worth billions of dollars, but it started as some comic books. Are we being ambitious? Maybe. I do believe, and we're seeing this now with other projects like the Bored Apes, that the next major story franchises can emerge from Web3. We certainly hope that Echocore is one of them, but I'm excited to see all of these projects that are coming out of the Web3 community raise this idea that narrative can reach the level of Hollywood, and that we can start to create a new cycle of value which returns that value to the fans. One of the things that I think is so exciting about what Echocore is doing is when you think of all the fan art that's created, when you think of game modders, when you think of people writing fan fiction based on their favorite TV show, those people are always on the periphery of those franchises. So Disney might know that there's fan art happening and overlook it, or they might send their copyright lawyers after you. But why shouldn't those people who are creating fan art benefit from the value that they're creating for those big franchises? And that's what Web3 is going to do. These NFTs today are your ticket. They're your ownership of these future large franchises, and you should benefit because you're helping to build them.
Tell us about the Echocore partnership with Pixelink.
So I've been advocating for an open metaverse for 15 years. Back then we used to do standards work with companies like IBM and thought that the biggest challenge was technical. How do I get an avatar from one world into another? Turns out that the biggest challenge is actually social. What's the incentive for one big silo to allow avatars from another big silo in? Why would Minecraft want Fortnite characters in its world, for example? What's exciting, I think, about Web3 is this feeling of openness. We're a big supporter of open meta. we're a big supporter of the open metaverse, and in our view, the more that we are all working together, the better. One of the most exciting partnerships that we're so pumped to talk about is our partnership with Pixelinx. Pixelinx is co-founded by deadmau5 and Richie Houghton, two big musicians, and they are creating a musical metaverse. And one of the reasons that we're so excited to work with them is that they share a similar vision for story. For them, music is a story. Music is an experience. They can make music come alive in the metaverse. We're doing the same thing with story, and of course, because of our partnership with Pixelinx, music will play an important part in the Echocore story.
Tell us about your background and the mission of the Echocore project.
I'm Doug Thompson. I'm a co-founder of Echocore, and Echocore for me represents a project that I can bring like 30 years of experience to. I've been working in the metaverse for about 15 years. I've built huge projects. One of them for the US military was a multi-year project to help military amputees recover from their injuries. So it was a kind of a big purpose project that spanned multiple years. I've also done projects with banks, with healthcare companies, and it was all great. Like, it was all meaningful, it was all helpful. It helped us to learn the technologies, the ins and outs. In particular, what we learned was that it's not always just about the build. It's not always about creating the best 3D model, that there's always a social component to this, especially when you talk about the metaverse. You're talking about community, and you need to be able to learn that your community is your equal. That's the only way that these projects succeed. So even though I have all of this technical knowledge, all of this technical background because of my experience, the biggest takeaway for me, the biggest lesson from my 15 years has been the importance of working with our community.
What attracted you to Echocore? What is your role on the project?
So Echocore is a story. It's going to play out over multiple seasons. It's the thing that attracted me to this project in the first place. The characters, I mean, you can just feel them. They have that quality of a great movie character, and you could really see the kind of conflicts, and you could see the emotion that just comes out of the story itself. So one of the things that I've brought to this as well is building out the infrastructure to support that story. And we call that infrastructure the Storyverse. Very simply, it's a series of contracts that exist on the blockchain which provide users with rights to their content. So we're working actually with IP lawyers, we're working with storytellers to break down the components of story, put them on the blockchain in contracts, and create relationships between those contracts. And that model, that architecture, that's what we call the Storyverse. In theory, that Storyverse can support all kinds of future franchises. For right now, the Storyverse platform, which exists on the blockchain, is supporting the Echocore story. If it works, it could redefine how IP is managed across entertainment. I mean, we're already talking to Hollywood agents who look at this as a new way to simplify licensing, to give artists, writers, directors access to a new way to express their talents. And it all exists on the blockchain, which has all of the advantages of transparency, community involvement, community ownership.
Describe the Echocore Storyverse gaming experience.
I love a game with a good story. Like, I love the big open world games like God of War, Red Dead Redemption. These games where you feel like you're inside of a narrative. And really that's what the Storyverse is. The Storyverse is a chance to participate in a narrative. Beneath that, there's actually a series of blockchain contracts that give you rights to those pieces of narrative, whether it's the location, your character's backstory, and the ability to actually mint parts of the canon. So if you think of the story of Batman, there's a canon, like there's just a truth about Batman, and our community is going to have the ability to mint that. But what's really key to me is that also be fun. This isn't just about, kind of sitting around and coming up with ideas, but that this is going to lead to a game world metaverse experience where you can actually have fun. There's actually going to be fun things to do. So it's going to be this really neat combination of which faction are you going to choose, which type of character are you going to have, what kinds of abilities will you grow, and that those game mechanics will work hand in hand with the story as it unfolds. So the Echocore NFT itself, the first one, is the Genesis NFT. There will only be 1,920 of them. They're broken down into 4 rarity levels: 128, 256, 512, and 1024. So as a Genesis NFT, that's going to be the source of value of all of the other NFTs that follow. So when you buy this first NFT, you're getting like incredible utility, because not only are you getting first access and usually a free avatar from the hero avatar drop, and then the following Shadow Core avatar drop, but you're also participating in all of the branches that come off of that as we build this storyverse. So super high utility. A, giving you access to the avatars, which will have access to the world. Those avatars will be interoperable. But let's remember what we talked about community ownership of content, because it's those Genesis NFTs, those Echocore NFTs, the very first ones, that a lot of the value is going to come back to, that gets created from the storyverse, from the immersion, from the content creation, from the things that get minted. So it's like, you're like being a studio owner. Imagine if you could have a share in Paramount Pictures or Sony Pictures, or imagine if you could have a share in Bethesda, a game studio, or Ubisoft. That's what these Genesis NFTs represent.